You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Hi, good morning. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Nicholas, Chair of the New York State Tourism Advisory Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is now 11:04 a.m. Okay, we're going to start by taking attendance to those video conferencing in. We'll call the names on the RSVP list that I have. Valerie Knobloch.
But you'll be able to hear it.
Okay. Dan Fuller.
I'm here. Good morning, Christine.
Great, good morning. Kelly Blazowski.
Here, good morning.
Good morning. Barbara Lee Diamonstein-Spielvogel.
Here.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Hi
you.
there.
That's great, thanks.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you. George and Tim, I see you're in a car, so I will save you. There you go, okay.
I'm here, Christine. Thank you.
Give me another number.
All right, thanks, George. Alana Petroselli.
Here, thank you.
Hi. Catherine Nichols. Okay. George Damalis.
Hey, how's
Senator.
everybody doing?
Great, welcome, and please extend our greetings to Senator Serrano.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Danny Donovan. Oh, I'm sorry, Danny O'Donnell. Not yet. Okay. And I know Val had RSVP'd. Val, have you joined us? Valerie Knobloch? Okay. All right. And then going around the room, let's start with Eleanor. Eleanor Tatum. Great.
David Filipiak.
Great.
Mark Lee Wilson.
Rich Gagliano. Ross Levi.
And Sarah Emmer.
And Randy.
Hello.
Welcome. Great timing. Okay, so you heard the sort of the reminders and the instructions.
Just check if there's anyone,
Okay.
any other TAC members on the
Anyone
phone
else
who we
to
didn't
join us?
capture.
There might be some I Love New York staff if they want to just announce themselves.
Okay.
Great. Anybody else on the Zoom who didn't announce themselves?
Good morning. This is Heather McKellany with I Love New York.
Good morning, Lisa Soto here with I Love New York.
All right. So it looks like we have attendance now done. Okay. So all members have been emailed a copy of the minutes. They're also available on the ESD website. Are there any changes proposed by TAC members to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Motion to approve the minutes.
Oh,
David? Okay, terrific.
first time.
And I need a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Barbara Lee Diamondstein Spielvogel. So, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. So the motion carries, minutes are approved. Okay. So to start off the chair's report, I wanted to just share with you, at the beginning of June, Governor Hochul held a groundbreaking event at Storm King Arts Center to announce record levels of funding for a large-scale capital project at 19 arts and cultural organizations across the state. Over $90 million in funding was made available through the New York State Council of Arts Capital Projects Fund to support arts and cultural institutions across the state as they undertake impactful and large-scale capital improvements to facilities. Grants range from $2 million to $10 million in projects and a total cost of $4 million or more. This funding will support investments to expand cultural programming, reach new and diverse audiences, and promote accessibility. The grant to Storm King, which includes $7.5 million in NYSCA capital grants and $3 million from Empire State Development and Market New York, will enhance the visitor experience through the construction of 2 new building elements to accommodate not only visitors and group tours, but greater preservation of collections and strengthening relationships with artists. You can see from the photo, the groundbreaking. Okay, Ross was in attendance along with Catherine Nichols for the governor's announcement. So thank you so much, Catherine, for joining the governor. Anything that you'd like to add from the day's events? No?
Yeah, I'm not sure
Nope.
she's on, so.
Not yet. Okay. Ross, you were there.
I was. It was a great event. Storm King is always a great place, and this sort of new center will, if you've been there before, you know, as wonderful as it is, the sort of welcome experience has been sort of diffuse, I guess is what I would say. You arrive and you're sort of walking around the sculptures. Well, now there's going to be a real focal point when you arrive, and I believe it's an all-season visitor center that'll have restrooms and information and check-in area, and is designed in a way to give you a real welcome experience. And so the state funding towards that, we were excited to see, and excited to see it ground broken, and look forward to see it come to fruition.
So that's not going to be on the top of the hill?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think it is. It's actually where a current parking lot is. They're going to be replacing a parking lot.
So right near the entrance then?
It's right at the entrance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So here where the food, where the concessions and the gift shop.
No, I don't think so. It's actually, like I said, it's currently where a dirt parking lot is, and
okay.
they're relocating. This will also help them kind of improve their parking situation. That's going to be more centralized, so it should
So
be great.
beautiful.
Yeah. And while we're on NYSCA, I might as well mention also, for folks who didn't see, I think TAC knows, Marimanis, the head of TAC, the head of NYSCA, the New York State Council for the Arts, she's leaving. So I don't know if folks saw the announcement of that. She's been there for a long time, done great work. She sent out notifications to the industry, and she'll be moving on to something else, I hear, that hasn't been announced. And I don't know, but I hear something else good, so that's good. But I did want to note that and thank her, actually, for being a tremendous partner. As you've heard at previous meetings, under her leadership, there has been, I'd say, more cooperation with NYSCA than I've seen as long as I've been here, in terms of integrating our work, making sure that their events are being promoted through I Love New York, and it's been a really great partnership and cooperative relationship. I'm confident will continue to be, but I think it's reached this level largely because of Mara's concentration and partnership, and just being a great person to work with. So she'll be missed.
Indeed.
Well, one of the things she should get credit for is expanding NYSCA's work to include capital funding, which is what we were just talking about moments ago. They didn't do it for decades, and it was very frustrating for a lot of people, other organizations, and the fact that they've moved into this and she gets good credit for this, although credit should be spread wide, but it's a really important development in the way the state deals with this part of our touristic life.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, Randy. As a matter of fact, as Christine said, this, while the groundbreaking was kind of the thing that people were there for, the announcement was far more than the groundbreaking. The announcement was to focus on exactly what you're talking about, because the governor recognizes how significant and how important this is to the arts community.
Okay. So also in June, the governor broke ground on the start of construction for the Buffalo Bills' new state-of-the-art $1.54 billion stadium in Orchard Park. The new 60,000-seat facility, designed by the Bills in conjunction with Legends and an architectural firm, Populous, marks the largest economic development project in Western New York history, with an estimated 30-year economic impact of $1.6 billion and a creation of 10,000 union construction jobs. Construction on the new stadium is expected to be complete in 2026. I just want to take a moment to welcome Natasha Caputo, who joined us. Hi, Natasha. Thank you. And in August, the governor announced the start of construction to reimagine the passenger experience at the Albany International Airport. The project, which was awarded $60 million from the $230 million Upstate Airport Economic Development and Revitalization Competition, will modernize the entranceways, add additional seating and waiting areas, and include improvements to reduce congestion and ease the flow of passengers. Additionally, the project will provide updated conference facilities, a public arts area and children's play zone, a new green space, and an expanded airside marketplace to help create a future-ready gateway and cultural destination for Capital Region residents and travelers. It's expected to be completed in 2025. And for some tourism attraction openings, the summer marked the opening of significant attractions across the state, the first being the expansion of the Strong Museum of Play, which Ross will discuss more in detail in his report. The second was the opening of the Buffalo AKG Art Museum, one of the foremost modern and contemporary art museums in the world. The $195 million expansion, restoration, renovation project includes the dramatic new 3-story Jeffrey E. Gundlach building and a restoration of 2 other historic buildings on the campus, formerly known as the Albright Knox Art Gallery. Buffalo AKG is projected to increase visitation by more than 30% and attract at least 160,000 visitors per year. It is estimated that the region could experience a sustained economic benefit of an additional $34 million per year as a result of the increased tourism. And in the Adirondacks, the governor unveiled a grand opening of the $25 million lodge at Schroon Lake in Essex County. The transformation of the Brown Swan Club into the lodge at Schroon Lake was supported by a $4.1 million ESD grant through the Upstate Revitalization Initiative and is expected to create 47 full-time jobs and 30 seasonal positions. The previously vacant property was converted into a premier Adirondack destination with 116 guest rooms, including suites, luxury cabins, and glamping sites to choose from. The resort includes a world-class restaurant and extensive indoor and outdoor amenities for guests, such as mini golf, tennis courts, and guest waterfront area with swimming docks and boats for guests' use. Last month, the governor previewed a year-long celebration of the Centennial anniversary of the founding of New York's statewide park and historic site system. The celebration, which will take place in 2024, will commemorate the anniversary of New York State parks with hundreds of community celebrations, performances, and special events throughout the state. There will be a Centennial Challenge to encourage visitors to try a variety of new activities at the parks, special discounts on park admission fees, and new opportunities to volunteer and promote park stewardship. Along with promotional events and activations, several investments will be made throughout the year to improve the visitor experience at these sites, building on the state's commitment to modernizing facilities for visitors to enjoy for years to come. Also in August, the governor announced another significant milestone in New York State's history with the commemoration of the bicentennial of the Champlain Canal. as part of the 524-mile New York State Canal system, a 60-mile Champlain Canal that connects the Hudson River to Lake Champlain first opened in 1823, 2 years earlier than the completion of the Erie Canal. The Champlain Canal is a destination for outdoor enthusiasts interested in boating, hiking, and cycling along the trail, which is now part of the Empire State Trail. This commemoration also coincides with upcoming celebrations for the bicentennial of the Erie Canal in 2025, which will culminate in New York State playing host to the World Canals Conference in Buffalo, bringing together hundreds of canal enthusiasts from across the world to New York. And that concludes my report. I'm thinking of, we should give a shout out to Gavin, because I know whenever I think of canals,
Canal, that's right.
Gavin Landry was so
Yes.
right on top of all the canals. So we got to thank Gavin for that. Okay? Any questions on the report? Who else joined?
Val.
Oh, hey, Val. Val Knobloch joined. Welcome. Okay. Well, there she is. Okay. All right. So, Ross, I'm going to send it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Good to see everybody. September's always a big I Love New York report because it's been a number of months since May. I think there's the largest gap between TAC meetings is the May and the September. And of course, it was the summer, so there was a lot going on. So we're going to kick it off with marketing activities, with which Rich Gagliano, our SVP of Marketing, will be covering.
Great, thanks, Ross. Like you're saying, it's hard to believe that we're here recapping summer. I feel like we're given a preview of what was about to take place. And it feels like the peak of summer right now outside. So
Yes.
pretend it's the end of summer, early fall for the summer recap, not midsummer update. So it'll start with broadcast TV. This summer's executions were the first time we rolled out our new, if you could jump to there you go. This is the first time we rolled out the new It's Easy to Love messaging, which we based on consumer research that happened over the winter. We walked through more of that strategy at our last TAC meeting, and these ads rolled out. We continued our approach of featuring the most visually appealing and engaging activities and attractions from across the state. These spots launched on Memorial Day and ran through end of July. And I'm happy to report that our preliminary performance numbers are trending, that these are potentially the highest scoring summer ads that we've ever produced / scored in terms of consumer consideration for New York State as a travel destination and likability. So more to follow on that. The details are still being worked through, but the preliminary reports are trending, unless some anomaly happens in the final tabulations, that this could be the highest scoring spot. And again, we attribute that to that approach of featuring the most visually appealing attractions across the state. So it's still a variety of attractions, types of attractions, and locations of attractions with this new strategy of It's Easy to Love. So it's great to see when the research that's done to develop a strategy is executed, and all the insights that we hope that strategy leads to are playing off in the results. So we're excited about that. Jump to the next slide, please. So next we're going to cover the I Love New York Mobile Tour. Again, I feel like we're just walking through the schematics and kind of walking people through what this is going to take place, how this is going to take place this year. So just as a quick recap, this year's mobile tour consisted of a series of pods that each had a theme to it, focusing on different areas of interest or attractions across the state. Those areas of interest were outdoor activity, cultural activities, sports across the state, family fun, relaxing getaways, and food. And we felt that those 6 categories did a pretty comprehensive job of covering almost every type of attraction that the state has to offer. So instead of me continuing to talk about this, just the next slide shows the remaining 3 pods. Instead of me talking about it, you really had to experience it to understand the impactfulness and the fun that people had engaging with this. So we have a quick video that was shot. The first weekend of our tour was at Jones Beach Air Show, and we shot some footage there. And there's about a minute or so, but it gives you a good sense of the fun that people had with this. So you can roll that. I said, you really have to, seeing it on paper is one thing. It's still pretty impressive, but when you actually experience it, it was that state fair for the past 2 weeks. It's just great seeing people engage with it and lining up for the different pods and the prizes. And I feel this year we had a good mix of interactivity. The balance we always try to strike is we want something fun and visually engaging, but at the same time, we want it to be educational. So everyone loves selfie pictures and backdrops, and we can do that all day long, but then what's the story? Or we can put out very detailed digital kiosks with all types of tourism information, but that's not super fun when you're at the beach. So we try to have a combination of those two, the balance between the education and the engaging. And I think this year we struck that balance because we saw people playing with the pods, coloring the wall, taking selfies, but at the same time, they were also asking questions, reading the digital kiosk, asking about where these locations are. I never knew about that. I never heard of that location. So just anecdotally, it sounded like people had a good, fun time and also learned a lot about it. The next slide, this is basically an overview of our stops. We had about 15 stops this year. As we typically do, it focuses primarily on in-state events. There were a few marquee events that were outside the state. We were at the Montreal Grand Prix. We were at the New Jersey Balloon Festival. And of course, like I mentioned, it culminated last week at the State Fair, where we were in the Expo Center for the 13 days, right? The State Fair's 13 days, about 2 weeks?
Yeah, that sounds right.
We were there, the 2 weeks in the Expo Center. And just again, some preliminary results. These are not finalized yet, but the tour itself saw about 150,000 visitors to our activations. That's not just totaling the attendance of these events. These are people who actually interacted with our activation. This year we installed people counters. We have more of an accurate read on who's actually coming into our footprint and spending time. And there's more detailed stats that we're still pulling together. But I wanted to feature that, as well as we implemented this year consumer research surveys to get an understanding of what people were getting out of it. Because in the past, one of our key metrics was email signups. And that was great. We want to be able to reconnect with these people who've raised their hands in future communications and CRM and newsletters. But what we found was by requiring you to enter an email to engage with some of our more popular activations, some people who didn't want to provide an email, even though they had a fun time at the event, they were not being measured at all. So we still captured emails for certain activities, but we also had surveyors kind of roaming around our footprint, as well as outside of our footprint, questioning and surveying those who've engaged with our program and those who didn't. And when you compare those who engaged with our program versus those who didn't, there was a 15% higher consideration level of vacationing in New York. And those who were surveyed before experiencing our activation and after, there was a 14-point lift in familiarity with New York State tourism attractions. So those are just two highlights, but I wanted to put those out there because we wanted to make sure that we're measuring. We see anecdotally with people having a good time and learning, but we wanted to actually put some quantitative numbers behind that. So far, the preliminary results are very promising for that. These are, again, I mentioned this, these are just some anecdotal quotes that we've seen from people on the surveys and speaking to the brand ambassadors. I'm from New York and I didn't know about these destinations. I fly somewhere every year for vacation, but maybe this year I'll just drive. There's plenty to see and do in New York. Visiting from Oregon. I had no idea New York had these great outdoor destinations. I'm planning to come back and check some of them out. So just a sampling of some of the feedback that we've gotten. And again, when you're there and experiencing, you see the lines of people, the fun that people have taking pictures, engaging with our brand ambassadors who are really great. Our brand ambassadors are trained. They're a big piece of this. We could have the most engaging activation built and designed, but if the brand ambassadors don't bring that level of energy and expertise, it falls a little bit flat. So we've got the great brand ambassadors kind of bringing the execution to life.
I have to say, I go to the U.S. Open every year, and over the years, it's interesting to see something very similar they do there with Amex and Cadillac.
Yep.
Has very similar in how it's grown over the years. And when you go to a place where you're expecting to spend a day and have fun, you're very of course, that's just part of the day's itinerary.
Right.
And you are then engaged and interested.
Right. And when we look at an event like U.S. Open, this year, I believe we were beat to the punch. They slowed their exclusive tourism rights to Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that.
But they have a large tennis event, so they were using that to leverage the tennis audience. But we're always on the lookout for, we've got our sort of tried and true stops. I was just going to say, we optimize, we keep an eye on the performance of the events each year. We try something new out that seems to fit our target, and if it works out, we kind of go back there next year. So each year we don't start from scratch with our list of events, but we do sort of optimize based on the performance of the events and the type of audience that's showing up to those events each year.
I have a question on that, though.
Yep.
Because it's a public park outside and everyone is coming in there, would we be able to do some sort of an activation in the park?
We can talk to the city about that because it's City Park, which is, we work with them a lot. It's possible to do something, but sometimes those sort of guerrilla, like there's a lot of brands try to do that with the Olympics, where you're not an official sponsor, but you try to do something on the outskirts or sort of, touch upon it. There's opportunity for that. We haven't really explored that because for something like this, I think you would still need to, whether you're paying USTA, it's still a tour stop. You would have to figure out the logistics of getting the pods in and how that would work.
Or doing something at City Field, in the parking lot of City Field, which they also use for parking there, which would be a City Field destination.
Right.
And it would be a combination.
We are in conversations with different, the Yankees, the Mets. We actually did a small activation earlier this season for opening day, where we did a partnership with the Yankees and the Mets. It wasn't an on-field activation or an on-site activation.
Right. Well, I'm thinking parking lot because I know we get the folks going to the US Open as well.
At Shea Stadium or City Field, you've got the people going both ways. But we're always exploring those opportunities.
Yeah.
We're talking to the NFL. The Bills are playing in London. We've got partnerships with the PGA, so we're always on the lookout for how to best partner with those types of marquee large events. But you're right. Sometimes if it's either out of our price range or if it's taken up, there are possible ancillary ways to sort of connect to those large events. So like I said, we're continuing to optimize our selection of events. I just wanted to give a big shout out again to the experiential team. Adi Wilk, Tanya Perez, and Mari Hagi. It's a lot of work. We all do a lot of work, but on the experiential, there's a lot of production and hands-on, and you've got to be at the events and work with the brand ambassador. So it's a little more, physical work involved in it as well. And the team was a person down this year, so just another shout out to them for pulling this off under tight timing and the circumstances of having one less person on the team. So jumping to the welcome centers, I just want to provide a quick update on the interactive kiosks located at the Isle of New York welcome centers. Both the hardware and the software on the existing kiosks have been in place since the welcome centers opened a little over 6 years ago now at this point. In an effort to update both the customer experience with new content as well as optimize the backend capabilities, we've just overhauled and upgraded all of the interactive kiosks at all of the welcome centers. We've installed new hardware, there's new touchscreen, there's new engaging content on it, and from a back-end standpoint, we're able to update content remotely, and we're also able to provide more customized local information at the specific welcome centers. So these just rolled out. We're sort of running through making sure everything's up and running the way it should be, and then once that we know that everything is up and running efficiently, we can start looking into more of a messaging strategy to customize some of the local messaging that's out there. There's more direct connections to the Isle of New York website and the database of events and attractions on there. So when people use the interactive map, they know that's the most up-to-date information on there. In the past, the maps were still updated relatively frequently, but it wasn't in real time. So now if an update is made to the Isle of New York database, it automatically appears on the map here. So there's no concern that if a new attraction opens up or if attraction closes or something changes with them, it's still the same information is reflected here. This is just an example of some of the, we've still got our trivia contests and our quizzes and the interactive maps. There's going to be up-to-date weather information and traffic information. If there's any, specific local events that we want to talk about, I'll get to the Eclipse in a second, but we'll be using these screens a lot to help promote the Eclipse. We've got this new technology that allows people to take a selfie there with customized backgrounds based on the location you're at. So, all in, it's still taking that great experience that already existed in the welcome centers and just upgrading it, making it a bit more engaging and interactive and a bit more of a refresh. Since, again, the hardware and the software has been there for, I guess the oldest welcome center is Long Island, and that's probably 7 years at this point. All right, six-ish years.
You have a question from a TAC member.
Yep.
Yeah, Val, you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, Rich. Thanks. I'm really enjoying this presentation and having a welcome center in my backyard. I'm glad to see the opportunity for the localization of that because that's been a need that we've had. and been asked for over and over again. The next question I'm going to get asked though is how is that information fed in? And I noticed your slide said locally customizable, but is there the expectation that the staff at the Welcome Center is going to feed in what comes up, or is it the TPA, or how's that going to be fed in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Twofold. One is, the process for updating the information for events or for attractions at ilovenewyork.com, that doesn't change. So the way the TPA is currently update the site, that still happens. So when people engage with the map, they're seeing the most updated information there. Like I said, since these just rolled out, we haven't rolled out the process yet for the local customized content. But the way that would probably work is the TPAs would work with us or the operators of each individual location. And if they let us know that there's an upcoming event or something they want to promote locally on the screens, whether they're in screensaver mode where it's a rotation of ads and messages, or on the homepage itself, they can let us know and we can update. That would still be updated by the I Love New York team centrally, but we can do that, remotely without having to send someone up to the actual location. So from a content perspective, again, we'll roll out more specific processes for that, but it's probably going to go through the TPAs to someone at the Welcome Centers, to the I Love New York team, and we would update it centrally.
Okay, thank you.
So these are all live now, I believe. I think.
Oh, no, I just have to say, I love the Welcome Centers, and I stop at them every time I'm on the highway. And I also love the vending machines there.
Great taste New York products. So people who haven't experienced them, they pull up thinking it's just a rest stop. But there's going to be a Wendy's and a Starbucks and a bunch of bathrooms, and they're pleasantly surprised. They're beautiful buildings. Yeah. They've got great, content, not just the screens, but the non-interactive content, the walls of fame, and the attractions on the wall, and the videos, and the food selection. So most of the reports we hear, people love them also.
Oh no, I mean the food selection is fantastic. I mean you can get fresh goat cheese that's frozen, ice cream, pies, and also sometimes when you have the live vendors there that are popular, whereas like tastings and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's a great experience.
Yep, great. The Eclipse. So another event that is quickly approaching. I can't believe that when we first started talking about Eclipse, people were, what, Eclipse? What are you talking about, 2024? Fill me in later on. But now it's less than, 6-7 months away, April, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's coming up fast. It's picking up steam. Since we last spoke, we've updated the I Love New York dedicated Eclipse page to include more regional specific content on viewing opportunities and events in the, across the state, but primarily on the path of totality. And it wouldn't be a TAC meeting without me saying the words path of totality. I just love saying that. April 8th, around 3-ish o'clock, depending on where you are, I believe the time is. So we've updated the I Love New York website with more content. We're working closely with the regions to make sure that the I Love New York page is as up to date as possible in regard to those Eclipse events, especially in the path of totality. And we've also included links to parks and their campsite rental information, as well as content regarding education and safety around the Eclipse. This is a great occasion to promote travel and viewing the Eclipse, but we want to make sure it's done in a fun, and safe and educational way. So we're working really closely with the, other state agencies such as the DOT, Department of Health, Department of Homeland Security, state police, to make sure that everyone's doing it in a safe way. Everyone's aware of any road closures, hazards, times to avoid travel, safety tips in terms of watching the Eclipse, and educational information for kids on what the Eclipse really means and what's happening. And those who are lucky enough to be here in person, gifts were provided. We've got our actual I Love New York sunglasses, Eclipse glasses.
Oh, they are dark.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep, literally, yeah, well, that's the
way they work. We know they work.
That's how you look at the sun. Yes.
Right, you literally look at the sun and you can see
a
the
little
eclipse,
dot.
but that's all you can see because it has to cut out everything except that bright light of the sun.
Right.
Can't see that.
No, you're not supposed to. Right. If you go outside and look at the sun today, though, you'll see
a
the
little
sun.
dot, a little orange dot.
I'm going to try it.
I did. It's good.
And that was a good, promo for the fact that these were approved by the Department of Health, because I don't want the marketing team responsible for blinding 100,000 New Yorkers if these are not bought to the right vendor. So these are stamped of approval, ISO certified, safe to go. We started distribution of these glasses a few weeks ago at State Fair, and slowly just trying to talk to people about it. Parks had an exhibit about State Fair as well. The Rochester Planetarium is, heavily involved in this as well. So you'll start seeing the conversations and messaging about the Eclipse expanding exponentially over the next few months. Probably right now we're aiming for later in the fall to start a paid digital campaign to help build awareness of the Eclipse. It's coming. New York is a great place to view it. Plan your trip now. We'll also probably be distributing the glasses through welcome centers. We're also working with state agencies to help them with any glasses needs that they have. So I Love New York is not necessarily supplying the entire state with glasses, but we are offering up anyone who needs the artwork or the contacts of the vendor to buy their own supply. We can provide them with those contacts. But we're working through a distribution plan to at least get a decent quantity to state parks and other state agencies that are involved in the Eclipse.
It does say very clearly not to drive with these.
As if you need it.
Got it. Just like the morning hot coffee,
This is April 8th?
April 8th,
Right,
yeah.
at 3.
Around 3 o'clock, yeah.
Depends where you
And
are.
it's a Monday.
That's another thing. It's a Monday, the day after some schools have a spring break. So we've talked to the Department of Education about maybe extending it by a day. So not only is it
That means
during,
extending school.
well, not extending school, but extending the vacation. Right.
You know what that means? That means we're not getting out until July 1st.
Well, there's been
That means, well, the kids are going to miss a week of school that go to camp.
there's been a lot of concern of what the school day will be like with the Eclipse.
Because it's happening at 3
literally
o'clock at
kids are getting
dismissal
out of
time too.
school.
If it was noon, maybe they could do something at school, but it's happening at dismissal time.
I see.
And, there's concerns, and this has happened in
Safety concern.
the last
traffic
the last
concern.
total eclipse that passed. I went through like southern states, or I think it was a few years ago.
Yeah, directly.
Right, they had issues with
Some of them.
people just stopping on bridges in the middle. People just stopping on the road and clogging up traffic, which is fine for a few minutes, but it causes there's emergency clearance. So the state police, DOT, we're all kind of working through. Looking at past history of other cities, how what types of incidents have happened there, how we best could communicate that and best alleviate all that. So there is an overarching New York State Eclipse task force. That task force is split into 2 halves. I lead the marketing and public messaging side, and my colleague Jennifer Walker from the Department of Homeland Security, she's leading the side that's focused more on readiness, safety. So she's dealing with the Department of Homeland Security, the police, DOT. We're working really closely together to make sure that, again, we want to promote this as an event to travel to and enjoy, but done in a safe and prepared way.
What will Southern New York see anything?
It'll still be like here. It'll get dim and dark. It'll be pretty cool for a while. You still need your glasses to see it. But if you're on the path of totality, you're going to get 3 minutes, right, David? 3 full minutes of pure nighttime darkness. Like crickets start coming out, supposedly.
Yeah.
The animals get tricked into thinking it's nighttime. I've never seen one, but it's supposedly a pretty interesting experience.
With that being said, if you're in Albany or in New York City, we hear in these areas you might have 97% or 98% coverage, 99. Unfortunately, you don't really experience the event unless you're in the path of totality,
which goes pretty wide.
Yeah.
That white line in the middle, that is the epicenter, if you will. So it hits Buffalo, Rochester,
Rochester, Syracuse,
Placid,
Watertown,
Lake Placid.
So is that Lake Placid?
Close.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that orange dot is Lake Placid, so it's just north of there.
But you're still within that.
Lake Placid is within the path.
Within
of
that
totality,
blue,
yes.
the blue double lines, that's still considered the path. So if you're in that range, you're still going to get pretty close to 100%. So the
So
closer
Whitefish
to the
should do a
line.
really big event for that.
Well, they are. ORDA's involved in this. DEC's involved in this. State Parks is
State
involved
Parks,
in this.
so-
Canals is involved.
So I Love New York, we're not running any specific events. We're not putting on an event with a stage or light. We're not producing any event, for lack of a better word. But we are aggregating all the events that are going on across the state, especially in that path, whether it's a private event that's being put over a package deal with a hotel, or a state park event, or just an area that we feel is going to be an attractive spot, the Bluff in so-and-so's town, something that doesn't have a planned event, but we feel people may show up. We're trying to aggregate that. So we're on I Love New York's Eclipse page to be the hub for all information, safety and education-wise, as well as viewing information.
And it's interesting, all the logistics that have to be maneuvered. This is, April 8th in the Adirondacks is different than today, right? Most state parks are not open on April 8th, so there's some question of, well, which ones
the parks
will be
that extend
open?
a little bit their season.
Right. is it going to be too muddy? Is there going to be impact to the environment of too many people trying to go to places in the Adirondacks that would do harm if they try to see the eclipse? So a lot of this is being worked out as carefully as possible.
But the one thing we don't control is the weather.
Right.
So we're hoping for a nice, clear day, but the event is happening on time, I'll tell you that. At 3:02, the eclipse is happening.
We thought there could be a better date. We inquired about moving the eclipse, but somehow that didn't work out.
But seriously, we couldn't plan like that line. If we were going to draw a line across upstate New York, it hits, all the major. Yeah. So we've got these choices. It's a good problem to have. To go to Niagara Falls, I go to Lake Placid. Do I watch it in downtown Rochester? All these beautiful locations to experience this. I don't call it once in a lifetime, but it's pretty close. Unless you travel to follow them.
I have had I am an umbrophile. I am an eclipse chaser. I've had I've had the pleasure of witnessing a couple of these events in person. It is an awesome, epic experience. Weather cooperating, this is going to be an historic occasion.
Because it doesn't happen in New York State for another 200 years, 150, 160 years.
And in that location specifically, like 400 years. Yeah.
So you're suggesting take our kids out of school?
Education.
We made 200,000 of these. These will be collector's items. Years from now, you will see these in a museum somewhere in New York or somewhere in the country talking about this event.
Definitely in my closet.
So, I appreciate all our colleagues and their work for this. I'm really, really excited. And I already have my Airbnb in Rochester. That's all I'm going to say.
We have it looks like two people on the phone want to mention something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kelly?
Oh, yeah. I was typing a note in the chat, just asking if there would be like a media kit that could go out to the communities. I noticed your logo there. I'm sure, if TPAs, DMOs are doing campaigns, they would like to use it, probably, if they can, to support you.
Yep. We've been in touch with the TPAs, and they're providing us information right now. We're going to continue to provide them, updated information that we get. They have access to the logo if they want to use it. So we're in close contact with the TPAs about local events and what we're doing at the state level.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Val, did you want to add your comment?
No, I just, it speaks for itself.
We can't see it in the room, Val. So if you want to.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. So I said this is a great opportunity for everyone to come to the Northern Finger Lakes in Western New York, come to Canandaigua and the Finger Lakes Welcome Center in Geneva, and it can be a twofer for your vacation. The two last topics that Rich was discussing, blend them together. You can have the whole total experience.
Here you go.
This ad brought to you by Valerie Knobloch.
That's right. I would be remiss if I did not advocate in this manner.
We love it. Good job, Val.
All right. And finally, we are winding down the summer of hip hop. In celebration of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, which of course was created in New York. I Love New York highlighted a number of hip hop themed events that took place or were taking place across the state, and specifically events that I Love New York sponsored that took place at Empire State Plaza and the Harlem Summer Stage, Lincoln Center, the New York State Fair, and the Strong Museum. The Strong Museum exhibit is still going on for the next year, I believe. But there was a number of great events, again, across the state, some of the ones that we sponsored. I was lucky enough to see part of Salt and Pepper at the State Fair. And as part of the promotion and awareness building of the Summer of Hip Hop was a paid digital and social campaign that drove people to I Love New York to see the calendar of events. And there was that promotion was also tied to a sweepstakes to win tickets, VIP tickets to the Yankee Stadium Hip Hop 50 concert, which, according to their posters, the headline act was Run DMC, but the feature was actually Governor Hochul opening the show. So this is a picture from the stage that night where Governor Hochul was on stage with her young poet laureate, who she had at her inauguration, if any of you remember that. And he was great. She was great. They both kind of brought the house down, got the crowd revved up. And you can see she presented the poet laureate with our very limited edition I Love New York Summer of Hip Hop T-shirt. So it was a great event all over, overall. We also had a live activation at the Apollo Theater during their famous amateur nights. Every Wednesday night at the Apollo Theater is amateur night. And in conjunction with the Summer of Hip Hop, we had an activation in the lobby of the Apollo where we had a I Love New York Summer of Hip Hop step and repeat backdrop set up, and people were able to take selfies with it, and the line was, out the door for it. So basically everyone who came in that night to the event wanted to take their picture with the I Love New York Summer of Hip Hop logo. So all in all, it was a fun activation, a fun promotion, and in honor of a great milestone, the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
And the tail end of it still continues. The Strong Museum exhibit on how hip hop has manifested itself in toys and games is running into the fall, basically. So
that was a year-long
area.
Yeah, that was a year-long exhibit that started during the summer, and the rest of the events were one-off concerts or other cultural events related to hip hop. So busy summer, not a cruel summer. A little Taylor Swift reference for the day. I'm going to hand it up to Ross now.
Finished on that.
Yeah. Exactly. Another marketing piece we did is through our I Love New York LGBTQ initiative. At our last meeting, we gave you a preview of the activities that we were doing to gear up for Pride Month, and specifically, they've obviously been completed since then. 6 activations total for the year. Those were Long Island, Harlem, New York City, Philadelphia. We also were at Pride Night at the Syracuse Mets. I threw out the first pitch and made it to the home plate, so that was exciting.
Awesome. A lot of pressure on the first pitch. A lot of celebrities.
It's the second time I've done it there. The first time I practiced. This time I wasn't supposed to throw. There's like, no, you're throwing. So but I did better the second time not practicing. So that says something.
There was that line when George Bush threw out the first pitch at the World Series, and Jeter was back, in the locker room, and he was feeling kind of calm about it. And Jeter said, "Don't bounce it; they'll boo you." And all of a sudden, he has the pressure. I feel the pressure now.
Yeah. And of course, we were at Pride Day at the New York State Fair, as we always will be. The 8th. Been to every one. We were the first state in the nation with official Pride Day at our state fair, so we were happy to be there again. That was just last week. So you can see on the screen, as Rich was saying, it was one thing to see it in concept, but here you could see it in actuality. Our activations utilized a newly designed booth with our great brand ambassadors that. The booth had highly interactive elements, including what you see there is a kaleidoscope photo opportunity. So on the left, you see people standing in the kaleidoscope, and on the right, even though this isn't the best depiction, you can see me and Monty and Tanya from our experiential team. That's how it comes out. So and that is literally a frame you're looking at in the middle there. On the top, that's what we handed people. It's a cardboard frame with the photo in it. On the back was the Be Proud of Who You Are with sights of New York State to see. You also had the ability to get it digitally as well. So you got not only a hard copy, but you had it digitally, which in order to get that, of course, you had to give us your email. So that was the way we were able to gather information as well. At the Pride Night at the Syracuse Mets, we also had our I Love New York Rainbow Heart sculpture. As a result of all these activations, we were able to capture almost 22,000 impressions, over 2,000 email leads, from over 829 unique zip codes. So it's great, the reach that we can have with people. The I Love New York LGBT initiative wasn't exclusively about experiential. That was done as part of a larger campaign. We ran targeted digital and print advertising in a number of LGBTQ outlets, such as Passport, The Advocate, Out, and Gay City News. We, of course, used our own channels with I Love New York blog posts, social media channels. We had a pride guide on ilovenewyork.com/LGBTQ. As part of our partnership with Passport, the publication added New York State as a destination on their website, which allowed us to have 4 articles dedicated to travel in New York State for LGBTQ travelers, and that's remaining there for the year, so that wasn't only contained to the Pride Week. And the full page ad, which you can see here, that was a print ad that we used in a number of different places, including, for example, in the program for Pride Night at the Syracuse Mets. So a lot of activity around LGBTQ, particularly focused on June, some of which, though, continues. Our PR work remains very important, and Lisa Soto, of course, heading that up with other team members and Fin Partners, our vendor. We had our summer media night, which some tech members here in the room were at on June 7th. It was held at the Jackie Robinson Museum. And that was kind of our theme, was doing kind of a light baseball touch to media night. But within that, we were able to do sub-themes, activating in the room to New York, Summer of New York, Summer in New York. And we were able, for example, to highlight the Black travel programming with guests from the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center and from Allie B's Cozy Kitchen in Albany, an amazing soul food restaurant. She was giving out food there. We had a baseball and beverages station with the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Montauk Brewery and Millbrook Winery, because they had specific craft beverages that are created or themed to professional baseball players. We had a theme on outdoor adventure, where the Catskill Fly Fishing Center was at, DEC and Parks, and we had a family fun section with Strong Museum of Play. Overall, we had 10 regions, 6 partners, 3 attractions, and 3 agritourism locations participate, and over 40 media in attendance, including outlets like New York Times, Condé Nast Traveler, Traveler and Leisure, and Wall Street Journal. So a really good event. That very much served the goal of getting the New York City-based journalists exposed to all that's here in New York and getting them excited to write about us, cover us, do press trips with us, et cetera, et cetera. Also, under the PR front, we had 2 group press trips this summer, one in the Catskills and the other in the Hudson Valley. These were the first domestic group press trips we've done since COVID, so we're excited to get those rolling again. We've also had 17 individual press trips since the spring. And on the slide, you can see some of the results of those tours that we've done. It has resulted in 141 articles, and we break that down by sort of types. 55% of those are just sort of general high-profile outlets you would know, like New York Times and CNN. 44% were high-profile travel publications like Condé Nast Traveler and Fodors. 18% were hyper-local and drive markets. So those are neighboring states or folks, for example, locally here in New York City. 16% niche by audience, so that we are reaching people that are interested in particular things and speaking to them. So whether that's Architectural Digest and talking to them about, architecture in Buffalo, for example, or something. And then 8% niche by demographics, so, for example, women's health and ebony. So that's our PR. Want to move into some of our international work, which also is press. Part of that is press related. Heather Markley and Danae on our team working hard on our international and trade works. Individual press trips have been ongoing throughout the summer months for international writers from Australia and Canada. They've toured the Finger Lakes, and UK writers exploring Long Island, Hudson Valley, Catskills, and capital Saratoga. And we have another 4 international press trips scheduled in the next few months, with writers coming from Germany, Australia, and the UK. We'll be going to several different regions across the state. Folks will remember at the last meeting we talked about that we have all new, with the exception of Canada, we have all new international offices, and they've been on board since past spring. And so we've been working with them on both these press opportunities, their sales work, and also taking a look at co-op opportunities, advertising opportunities to reach new audiences internationally. As an example of this, in the UK, we are partnering with a travel magazine called Wanderlust, and they are doing a campaign which you can see outlined here on the screen. It's running digitally and in print, promoting fall travel in New York State. It's running through mid-November, with a call to action directing travelers to an itinerary of things to do in New York State during fall, such as apple picking, hiking, and foliage watching. So here you can see the impact, and this is just one example of the sort of co-ops that we're trying to do in international markets.
Where's the place on the left?
Where's the place? That is Letchworth Falls State Park.
That's Letchworth, yeah. Yeah.
Even better when you see a balloon floating through it, because there are balloon rides available. That's extra for that. Yeah, that is extra. So our international, of course, is part of our travel trade work overall. You've heard me talk for about a year now, particularly thanks to our federal grant through the Economic Development Administration. We are able to do more in trade than we've ever done before, particularly domestically, where we've done very little until now. But now, as part of that work, Our team will be hosting a fall sales mission to Germany and the UK, where we'll be conducting sales calls, agent trainings, client events, and meetings with over 500 agents, operators, and travel writers. We currently have 3 of our local TPA partners here in New York State that will be joining us for that. We expect to have a few more. We are also excited to have finalized our trade show activation plans through summer of 2024. You've heard me at prior TAC meetings talk about going to IPW and ITP and a number of different shows. The fact that we are able to now go to 19 of those in one way or another is phenomenal, and I hope will be game changing. The fact, frankly, that we are able to let people know a year ahead of time of what our plan is, because Markley's nodding vigorously because we know, and I'm sure Val on the phone and Natasha and others, our TPA partners have had to bear with us having just a few months' notice because we couldn't commit to the budget, we couldn't commit to. Now we can. So we're very excited that we're able to be out there, and you could see here that we are able to commit to 19 trade shows in meetings and conventions, amateur sports, and group tour markets. As an example, we just recently partnered with New York City Tourism and Conventions, formerly New York City and Company, to participate in CITA, the Student and Youth Travel Association Annual Conference in Winnipeg, Manitoba, from August 18th through the 22nd. So our Canadian rep was able to attend on our behalf and meet with potential clients in the New York City and New York State booth and at some exclusive New York sponsored events. We were able to add over 50 new tour contacts interested in planning New York State tours to our database. And this was all in anticipation of CITA coming to New York City in 2024. And I Love New York is going to be a major sponsor of that event, including hosting some pre and post FAMs in August of 2024. And will also allow us to host an event for conference attendees, a specific New York State night that will bring our statewide TPA partners in under one New York State booth and expand on our already strong relationship with New York City tourism. So this was an opportunity to sort of kick off for that. This is just one example, though, of the things we hope to be doing at shows like ABA, NTA, MPI World Education Congress, Sports ETA Symposium, IMEX, et cetera, et cetera. So we're excited for the trade work ahead. This will be the
Might
first
I
time.
make a suggestion?
Please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
I think in London you must be in touch with the FT, especially the Saturday edition that has wide distribution in the U.S., especially New York. Are you familiar with that?
With
FT.
Oh, okay.
Financial Times.
Sure, yes, absolutely, yep.
Because I think if you took an ad, you might make some friends and get a story.
Okay, great.
But there are many people who subscribe only to the weekend edition.
Great.
And there's certainly always advertising real estate for sale. American.
Yeah.
In the environs, in the environs of New York. But I would really make a real push with them.
Great.
Because they are the paper of record in so many ways.
Great. Yeah, I'll definitely bring it to the attention of our UK reps. A lot of our international work until recently, actually all of our international work recently has been trade focused, not consumer focused. So we didn't really do advertising to consumers internationally. We started dipping our toe in that, if you remember, back when the governor announced the Bring Back Tours and Bring Back Jobs initiative, and we had some money to do that. We are now, thanks to the EDA, going to be able to do more of that. So this is really good to be aware of because we expect in the upcoming years to be doing more consumer-facing advertising internationally.
Well, it's also the business community that, really does read that paper, as do all the investment houses and all the legal support systems, and everybody who wants to know how to spend it, which is the title of their weekend thing.
If I can just add, we do have a relationship with the Financial Times of London. In fact, in November, I had dinner with one of their journalists who came here to research and subsequently did an outstanding article on the Empire State Trail. So we were featured in that publication in the spring of this year.
Would it be appropriate if I asked you the name of the journalist?
The name of the journalist, do we know? We probably have to check. We could let you know, Barbara Lee, though.
Yeah, I forgot.
It would be good, and then I'll explain to you why I know so much about the paper, okay?
Okay, great.
Maybe we can get a copy of the article to Barbara Lee.
Yep.
I live next door to a reporter.
But it's been very exciting. It's been very exciting to hear your report this morning, and I'm giving you an opportunity to pause for breath. It's all yours again.
Equally important to have a drink, which is just thank you. And more to come, because I want to mention next about the Black Travel Initiative, which you've heard me talk about, working with my colleague, Danae Jones. Recently, we finalized our agreement with a consultant to work with Legrand Communications to work on this. They're a 100% minority-owned and operated integrated marketing communication firm specializing in African American and Black and Hispanic consumer markets, over 2 decades of experience. And so for the next 2 years at least, that's what the contracts are at the moment, they will help the Division of Tourism do market research in this segment, product identification, developing a DEI industry toolkit for our partners out there, and guidance on marketing that we can do in this segment. While we are working to onboard that new consultant, we continue to do our work on this initiative. That includes expanded information on international platforms such as Brand USA's Visit the USA website, where we have specific content for Black travelers and coming to New York. The creation of new digital video shorts with Brand USA featuring Black history and cultural assets like the Jackie Robinson Museum, the John Brown Farm in the Adirondacks, the Underground Railroad Heritage Center that I mentioned previously in Niagara Falls. We're also doing site visits and stakeholder outreach. We continue to do that with relevant sites and attractions around the state. We're going to continue doing that in default. It's important for us to listen as we are putting this together, so we're eager to do that. A few industry relations things that I wanted to mention. As Christine mentioned in her opening, I was able to be there for that spectacular ribbon cutting at the Strong Museum along with the governor. Took place shortly after our last meeting in May. You will remember the Strong came and talked to TAC about it. I got to see it in action. You can see a picture of it there. The World Video Game Hall of Fame is open. The amazing Hasbro Play Garden with a giant Monopoly piece and a giant Scrabble tile, and it's pretty amazing. It's a 9,000 square foot expansion, and Governor Hochul was there, as I mentioned, and you can see in the picture, to announce the completion of the $75 million project. I was able to stay in the now on-site Hampton Inn, which isn't a generic Hampton Inn. It is sort of play themed, very modern, has some really whimsical touches to it. It's really cool. And we were able to tour the extension, which includes the largest playable Donkey Kong arcade game in the world. They had to get permission from the head of Nintendo, who said sure. And because of this, the Strong is now one of the largest history museums in the United States, period. So that's kind of cool. And these upgrades are expected to have a major impact on their annual attendance. They estimate it's going to grow to nearly 1 million visitors a year by 2026, up from a high of 600,000 pre-pandemic. So the Strong, which was already a leading attraction, will be going to new heights. I also was able to go to a Cycle the Hudson Valley event at the end of July. This is this traveling caravan, basically. It's a group of bikers that are traveling across the Hudson Valley, lower New York State, and creating these sort of tent cities every night wherever they go. And I was able to go with their first stop at the Hutton Brickyards in Kingston. And this was supported with a Market New York grant because it's a great tourism project. Over 300 riders actually are participating. You camp out? And are camping. Did you camp? I did not camp out. I came and said hello and had a little dinner and left. But this, yes.
Can they do that in August?
You could ask them. This is theirs, not ours. So
okay.
We don't sponsor it. So this is a
Where
group
are they
that.
based?
I can get you that information.
Oh, okay.
There was 300 riders. This is the first time they've done it in the Hudson Valley, and so they went from Troy to New York City. This is modeled on a very successful similar event called Cycle the Erie Canal, which helps to drive tourism and economic development across the Empire State Trail. So, to your point, Peter, I think they do a few of these events. So we can let you know who the organization is. Parks and Trails New York.
Parks and Trails New York.
Great.
I'll send you. Yeah, I'll send you the information.
Oh, okay.
Great. I was able to attend ESTO, which most of you know is the national gathering of state tourism, actually not just state, but tourism marketing professionals, state and local. They had over 1,200 attendees, which is a record for them. And the people who have been doing this for many years remember when it used to be 300 people and 500 people. It actually started as only the state tourism directors, then was expanded, and so now includes people from cities and towns. Lots of networking, lots of education. It was held in Savannah. It was hotter than here, believe it or not. But it was a great event. It's the 39th year that ESTO's been doing this. Some of the hot topics that were discussed included destination management as opposed to destination marketing and sustainable tourism, stakeholder engagement, reaching diverse travel audiences, some really interesting stuff on AI, and as well as how to work with airlines. So very interesting. I was there as part of a pretty strong New York State delegation. That's a picture of us on the upper right, and that's not even all of us, but those a few dozen of us from New York that include the CEOs of local DMOs such as Buffalo, Long Island, Thousand Islands, Niagara Falls. Our own Natasha Caputo and Val Knobloch were there. We learned a lot. Yes, we had some real fun too, so that's worth mentioning. It was great to be able to spend time together. So yeah, that's ESTO. I don't know if Val or Natasha, you want to add anything?
I'll add, I have for years advocated that I Love New York at the state level be represented at ESTO. I used to be the chair of ESTO for a while, and saw what other states were doing. And so when Ross indicated that he thought he would be there, I was elated and also grateful that New York State was willing to make that transition and commitment. And I think it was not only good for what Ross was able to learn and bring back for the people that work with him, but also the camaraderie of sharing across the destinations of New York. And so I appreciate the support he got from whoever that was, the powers that be, and hopefully it will continue into the future.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great to be there.
This is Kelly.
Sorry, go ahead, Kel.
Oh, Kelly, you're muted.
Sorry, I hit my keyboard. I would concur that as well. I've been an advocate for Ross to be there. It sends a big message across the country when your head of your tourism industry for your state is at ESTO. So I would be a strong advocate of him being able to attend and represent I Love New York every year. Thanks.
Thank you. Great. So want to let folks know our grant programs are kicking into high gear. Market New York just closed its latest round of applications at the end of July. We received 135 applications seeking over $43 million. There's only 15 million available, so as always, that's a very competitive thing. We'll have to say no to about half those applications, but we look forward to those awards coming out later this year. The tourism matching funds for our TPA partners, obviously the 2023 program year is well underway and moving along, and the guidelines and applications are being made in the beginning of October for 2024. It's almost here, believe it or not. You heard me mention previously the EDA Tourism Sub Awards, the EDA Awards. As part of that, you've heard me, I believe, talk at past meetings that we were able to give out 14 million of our 45 million to our local partners, to local DMOs across the state. So it's not only funding the work that we're doing on the state level, but will help our DMO and TPA partners across the state do work that amplify the work we're doing in the MICE space and international tourism and outdoor recreation. We received 33 total applications, and they've received over, and they requested over 29 million. So we had to scale those back. This was a competitive project as well. So 30 grants total. But for a number of people, we were able to talk to them, and rather than just say no, nothing, what can we change with your proposal to give you slightly less, but still making it a meaningful program? So every but grantee, except a couple, have received some money already in hand, which is great, and we've already seen some of those projects already underway. And lastly, Meet New York, which you've heard me talk about as part of the governor's Bring Back Tourism announcement, that is now officially closed in terms of receiving applications. So we've already paid out $62,000 under that, but more importantly, we have another about $3 million or so that will be going to events if they go forward as stated in their application. So this was to help bring events to New York State and spur that market again post-COVID, and so we were happy to be able to get some resources out to the community to do that.
Do we know which events they are?
One was a Pokemon event, I know, here in New York City, which brought together thousands, and another one is involving hockey in Utica. I think it's a national tournament in Utica. So then looking ahead to some quick things, believe it or not, as Rich said, don't let the temperature fool you. Next week starts our fall foliage report. And in general, our fall promotion as I Love New York converts to fall. We'll have, of course, our weekly report released each Wednesday, compiled using on-location field observations from our team of over 85 volunteer leaf spotters across the state that get their reports in, and Eric Shuffle on our team helps put that together and have that map come to life. It's an interactive foliage map available on our website. That tracks those changes weekly, includes recommended foliage locations, as well as the ability to filter attractions in those regions by category. So if people want to find what's a great winery near a place to see leaves or a great museum to visit, that's all there for them to discover. Travelers are invited to share their photos of New York State's picturesque foliage on social media by using the hashtag NYLovesFall. And then photos submitted to the hashtag have a chance of being featured on our fall foliage website and our social media accounts, which now is reaching over 2 million followers. Fall is also the time for our Path Through History Fall Weekend. You remember, it happens twice a year, once in spring, once in fall. And so we are already gathering locations across New York State that will be doing events between October 7th and 9th as kicking off New York State History Month. We continue to promote it through printed collateral, our I Love New York printed digital platforms, with a featured blog on events in each vacation region, digital advertising in those throughway operated rest areas, inclusion on the MTA OA website to encourage visitation events in Long Island and Hudson Valley. As just a sample of some of the events we're already aware of, there's an aerospace scavenger hunt at the Cradle of Aviation in Long Island, a sail and sketch workshop with Olana and the Hudson Ferry Company, which includes a 90-minute sailing expedition that'll take participants on the river to capture sketches, just like the Hudson River School painters did. Story time with Dorothy at the All Things Oz Museum in Central New York, and an exhibition on Fire and Vine, the story of glass and wine at the Corning Museum of Glass, which will be exploring the story of glass and wine in the Finger Lakes, which has had a nexus for both industries for the last 150 years. So look forward to those events, and we encourage you to get out there for Path Through History weekends and experience New York's heritage tourism. Last thing I wanted to mention that as far as coming up is some events we'll be a part of and industry events we'll be taking part in. For example, from October 16th through 19th, we'll be participating in Brand USA Travel Week in London. I'll be going to UK along with Markley to meet with tour operators, airlines. I'll be participating in the CEO track for the first time. Our UK office will be there, so we have over 30 appointments over 3 days. And so we're looking forward to that, and you'll see other things coming up as well. More than there is time to discuss. But that concludes both what we've done over the summer and a quick look ahead to fall. But I look forward to giving you details more at the next TAC meeting in terms of what we're able to complete.
Thanks, Ross. So upcoming, you have NYSTIA, which is September 14th and 15th.
Which is next week.
Right.
It's their annual meeting and the Excellence
All
Awards.
the way up in,
and that is in Rochester, so I'll be there
right.
next week.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the DMO meeting?
DMO meeting is in Long Island,
Okay.
so I'll be there the following week. And the other
Good.
3 I hit. Oh, and details on Winter Media Night coming forward. That's always a great event that we do with the Ski Association and ORDA to promote winter in New York.
Is this your first year doing Brand USA Travel Week?
It is for me, correct. Now, Markley's been there in the
We've done it every
past, so
time
we've
so
been
far.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
We've been there a
right.
few years, but this is the first year that we will have representation on the CEO track, which is some really good new opportunities to meet with airlines and some other things that we
It's a
haven't
hard
had.
ticket to get, so good to hear you.
Yeah.
That you're in there.
Well, we've done it
We
from
were
the
one of
beginning.
the early
From the beginning,
partners,
yeah.
and part of this is thanks to our $300,000 partnership with Brand USA. So yeah, you're right. We're excited.
Any questions for Ross? Well, Ross, thank you so much. Keep up the fabulous work. When you mentioned Brand USA being in London October 16th through the 19th, I'm hopeful that there'll be some discussion and some awareness of what's coming up, which in new business is just, I'm hearing from our TAC members, they're questioning what are we doing for the 250th anniversary of New York, of the United States, right? So what is New York State doing? Because other states, some are very far along, some haven't yet met. So New York State hasn't yet met officially. The governor did announce statutorily that there is going to be a 250th commemorative commission. There's going to be 21 voting members. Many will be state agencies. Appointees, I think, include representatives from Empire State Development. So Ross will be part of that. The Department of Education, Council of the Arts, the Office of Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation. TAC will also be part of that, 21 members. But so as the governor's putting the final touches on the appointments, we look forward to a meeting, and hopefully if it happens before the 16th or 19th, you can carry that information with you, because I would assume that in the UK, London, that will be a very big interest in the commemoration. And they'll play a part, I'm sure, in for good and bad of some of the recreations of what's going on or what happened 250 years ago. So there are a couple of tasks that were in the statute that the commission listed that will take place that I think the TAC would probably be most interested in. Part of that is planning commemorative events in different communities throughout the state. Also inviting interested states and nations to participate. So that would be perfect for you, Ross and Markley and your team as you travel around the world to see what nations would be interested in, what states would be interested in some kind of joint promotion or commemoration. There'll be meetings and conferences and seminars and conventions that will be part of this. So we would probably have a role in that, especially, putting up the welcome centers and, the information booths. So, and then also just coordinating and making sure that all the TPAs are aware of, what the state will be doing, and then also to gain input from the TPAs and from TAC members. So if anyone has, I know, Natasha, you've been somewhat interested in this and have already met, I believe, or you're having a meeting. Why don't you tell us what Westchester and Hudson Valley is planning?
Hi, yes, thank you for the opportunity. I have strong love of history and heritage with my work at NYC 100. So I feel strongly that this is an opportunity, and I'm going to use the line we did during the Centennial, America begins in New York, and that means the entire state. I think that for Westchester County, for a couple of years now, we have been working with Revolutionary Westchester 250, which is a nonprofit that Westchester Tourism administers a small grant, and pulling together our historians, our historical sites. Now moving forward on September 27th with the Westchester County Center, we are hosting a big meeting, really bringing in our hoteliers and all of our tourism partners for a 2-hour kind of summit. Our county executive, George Latimer, will give welcome remarks, and we can kind of just really talk about with our guest speakers, including New York State historian Devin Landry, Marie Salerno from the Federal Hall, who's also on America's 250th committee, and other guest speakers to build excitement and momentum. This is an opportunity for us to really showcase our sense of place. And I do believe that international is really, a way for us to promote that and showcase our history, but also, as I've said before, and I think tourism, and I know Christine believes this, and tourism is the best form of diplomacy for us to really welcome new visitors here to New York State, Westchester County, and all of our regions.
Thank you, Natasha.
Excuse me.
Will ESD
May I be in touch with that woman? I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Or could you give her my coordinates, please? New York 100, because we're doing New York City 60, and I'd like to tell her about it.
Okay, we'll connect you for sure.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Natasha, and keep us informed. I also wanted to carry.
There are other counties doing things at the local level. Saratoga through the county government, Montgomery County through the government there, Orange County. You may have mentioned it, Natasha. I couldn't quite tell. There's a Hudson Valley region being created through Greater Hudson Heritage, chaired by Will Tatum. So there are pockets of activity throughout the state, even though the state commission is not formally up and running. People aren't necessarily waiting at the grassroots level. They're doing things.
They shouldn't wait.
Right.
Well, and neither is I Love New York.
I'm just mentioning these county level events that are going on now.
Yeah.
Yes, and in addition, thank you for that. And there is a regional Hudson Valley. Well, we did have a session at the last New York State Tourism Industry Association. It was a panel, and so as a whole, we have been talking about it, and Ross has been involved in the team at I Love New York in those conversations.
Because I definitely wanted to mention that at Brand USA, just as I have at IPW, just as I have at IMM and other different places, we're continuing to talk about this. We've recognized for a few years that this is a good tourism play and something we have to be talking about. And I think once the commission is up and running, that can only help supplement in terms of events that it might spur or information it might collect. To your point, Peter, to bring people together and centralize information, that's going to make our job even easier to promote this. So we look forward to that.
Will you be at the Greater Hudson Heritage Conference at Boscobel? That will cover the whole Hudson Valley area. It'll be the first in-person meeting since COVID.
When is that?
The Greater Hudson Heritage Network is a support group for history organizations.
When is the meeting? I'm sorry.
I don't remember the exact date. It's in the fall. I know that.
Okay.
I can get you the information if you want.
Sure.
Or you can go to their website.
Okay. So I'm glad that we're talking about this. I also just wanted to carry some information from former chair, Tim Zagat, who I remain in touch with. And if you look at the New York City seal, Natasha, I see you're smiling. On the city seal, it was founded in 1625. I know that Natasha, we met from working together with the New York City 100. That was when the 5 boroughs came together in a unified city, which was...
No. 1625?
No,
Oh, the
100 years.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's okay. So Tim wanted me to just inform everybody about this in hopes that New York State, I Love New York, can start to talk about maybe working with NYC Tourism or New York City to do something to support and promote that New York City is having its 400th anniversary in 2025. So if you go back to the original borders of New York City, which is still on our city seal. So I don't know, Natasha, if Marie Salerno is doing anything with that, or have you heard anything?
I know that, I mean, it's definitely of interest, but not of any specific details. And I'm also aware that I know Kellyanne from, New York Visitors and Convention, she's listening, and that it's something that they've been discussing.
Okay, all right, good. Any other new business?
I just wanted to mention that there is a new president and CEO of ORDA.
Okay.
That is going to be starting in the next few weeks. And it might be good to have her come to one of our meetings.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Maybe November,
Yeah.
right before ski season starts.
That's a great idea.
And she's Ashley Walden, and she's a USA luger. She was a successful Olympian and World Cup luger,
Yeah.
and she comes from she was formerly the executive director of the Adirondack Sports Council.
Mm-hmm.
And she also was head of the World University Games.
Yes. Yep. I know of her through our friends up at Lake Placid. Yep. I think she's been at a couple of our events in the past. Yeah. She's been a great.
Lake Placid native.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I think she came to
She was an
media.
Olympian too. I believe she was a silver medalist.
Right. That's right.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, she was at our winter meeting night last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. We
So-
love to invite her.
Yeah. So I think it would be a good idea.
McKenna has put me in touch with her recently. So
Great.
before I didn't even realize that she was in the running for order, but she was doing something else. So I'll be happy to make that connect.
Yeah, she was at the Sports
invitation.
Council,
Yes.
oversaw the FISU games.
Yeah.
Is now award.
Exactly. So so it was announced by the governor just a few weeks ago.
Perfect.
And so she'll be starting later on this month.
Great. Thanks, Eleanor.
I just want to interject the challenges of Zoom is when she first said that, what I heard was instead of loser, I heard she's a New York State loser. I'm glad that you went on to clarify that more because it's like, wow.
No such thing as a New York State loser. We're all winners here now.
USA loser. We're very excited.
Good. Any new business on Zoom, or Randy Borscheid in person has some new business?
Yes, an idea out of left field, if you'll excuse me. And it's an idea that probably has been considered many, many times by the people in this room and your colleagues and predecessors and so forth. The idea is this: to find an occasion, to create an occasion, find an opportunity to celebrate the history of I Love New York. Specifically, the logo. Many of you, I'm sure, are well aware that John Dyson, and have John Dyson in mind because he's still with us, although I haven't seen him for quite a while, but when he was head of ESD or whatever it's called then, spoke to Governor Carey and first began talking about the need to market New York as an industry center, a center for manufacturing and so forth. He said, we've got all these factories and we've got all these things, we have this amazing history which has dissipated a bit, but we can rebuild it. And then that evolved into another idea. He said, and why not tourism? They're already coming to Broadway, but we're not doing a thing to market them, and we're not market ourselves to the world, and we're not doing a thing to counter the negative image that New York City and New York State has throughout the country and throughout the world. And the governor said, sure, interesting idea, why don't you go ahead with it? He, at some point, and I'm not quite, I don't know exactly how this came about, got into conversation with a very important graphic designer named Milton Glaser. Famously, Milton Glaser was in a taxi one day in 1976 and sketched this. That drawing is in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art now. The campaign with that logo was launched the next year in '77. So what I'm thinking is that it's just kind of an interesting part of our own history, and a way in which New York finally understood that it had not only something to market, but the ability to market it. And you know, acknowledging John Dyson's role in this would be just one part of this. But
so it's not out of left field. First, let me clarify that. It's not out of left field because
I'm sure you've been thinking about it for years.
100%. We know that '77 was the anniversary of the campaign, so it's in the back of our minds. But we know we're talking about all these forward-thinking events. The US 250 Ryder Cup is coming to Bethpage in 2 years. So we were in our back of our minds. The 50th anniversary of I Love New York was coming up. So we've started at least some thinking and possibilities. What can we do around that? We know that's going to be something that we have to recognize. You know, also internally within ESD, we are, you know, there's been a couple of specific projects that could connect to the history of I Love New York. You mentioned the MoMA. This is the actual sketch.
There it is.
So there's a few things that we're starting to sort of talk about.
Is it MoMA at the Met? It's the MoMA?
MoMA.
Yeah. It's the most famous logo in history.
Yep.
Right. And as we well know, it's
And copied, unfortunately.
it's copied right all over the world too. But
right, what is it? The sentence, the phrase.
Imitation is the
is the
greatest form of flattery.
Right. And we say this all the time when we talk about, you know, sponsorship opportunities, getting the logo out there. When we have a presence at an event, a sports event, or up at Adirondacks, people recognize it, know it, but we really, you know, from a marketing perspective, we don't need extra awareness of the logo. We want awareness of the story behind the logo, what the logo represents. It represents New York State tourism. When people see that in game, people don't look at it the same way as they look at a Nike logo or a Budweiser logo, so they know it's selling a product. When you see I Love New York at a stadium, a lot of people just think it's like the American flag. It's just there. It just comes along. It's just there because I'm in a New York event. So that's great that we have that recognition. But what we strive to do from the marketing and the tourism side is really connected to that story, what it represents, what it stands for. We know a lot of people still associate it with New York City, and that's great. The T-shirts and the mugs, and that's, you know, great that that's part of it. But we do research also on the logo to get an understanding of how, you know, the percentage of people that connect it with the greater state story versus just New York City.
it was always meant to be statewide.
Right, exactly. But still, you know, you see every other store's got the T-shirts, and so it just naturally has that connection to New York City, which we don't want to break that. That's great, but we also want to build on that story that it stands for the state as a whole. Obviously, New York City is a big part of the state, but the I Love New York represents New York State tourism as a whole. So we are thinking through, you know, a number of different ways to celebrate the history of it, not just for the 50th anniversary, but in general, get that message out of what the logo stands for, the Milton Glaser, the history of the campaign that came from, I think it was Wells Rich Green, Mary Wells, came up with the campaign, and it all came together. And there's it's a great story. It's not just us talking to ourselves. Like, it lends itself to like a little mini documentary. Like, there's a lot of legs to that, to what you just brought up. So I'm glad it wasn't out of left field. I want you to understand this is not a random, an idea that we have not thought of yet. So,
And it's such an important part of New York.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. I can see exhibits all over.
Yep.
The Historical Society, Museum of the City, but then all over New York State, because that's really what it was intended to benefit. It was Broadway and that element of it, because people were afraid to go out. That was one of the issues. I know Jerry Schoenfeld, unfortunately he's passed as well, but he used to tell the story about how the governor met with him and they wanted to do, or he met with the governor really, because he was pushing to do a Broadway campaign. And that's what's in our heads, the song and, that wonderful Broadway campaign that to this day we can remember if you're at a certain age, which is probably everybody on this committee, on this council. So,
and we see it even when we just put up one of the large, you've seen it with at our events, the large I Love New York sculpture, we call it. Whether it's at one of our events or at the welcome centers, we'll just line up and take pictures of it. They mean something to a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
And I add an historical perspective to that.
Of course, Peter.
About 200 years ago, you have Thomas Cole and the Hudson River School starting in the 1820s, the Catskill Mountain House, and all those great hotels being built up in by the Catskill now, not the Catskills as we think of it. Steamboat travel beginning. Fort Putnam, which we call West Point, was a tourist site then. So there's a lot of tourism starting then, with people wanting day trips out of New York and then more extended trips. So that's before I Love New York, obviously, but it is part of New York State history.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, telling the broad story of New York State and tourism is fascinating, right?
And Niagara Falls.
Right. Well, I was going to say Niagara Falls was arguably America's first tourism attraction, and also probably America's first example of over-tourism. The word vacation was actually invented for the Adirondacks. I don't know if you know that, but the wealthy folks who had great camps up there, which were mansions in the woods, would tell their rich and powerful friends, not only in New York City, but in Washington and Hollywood, it's too hot. You need to vacate the city. Come up to the Adirondacks. Come up for a vacation. And that's why Americans use vacation instead of holiday. And it was used there.
Vacate the cities.
So we have vacate the heat of the cities to get to the cool of the Adirondacks is actually what it was used for. So it's a great, there's a lot of great connection that New York State has to tourism in general, never mind just the idea of visitation.
Yeah.
Right. So the logo, the I Love New York, that's sort of the embodiment of it, and that's sort of the excuse to talk about the history of New York tourism, but it's the centerpiece of it all, even though we only started 50 years ago, and tourism obviously goes well beyond that.
Right.
But this is something that we've been talking about, like what do we do to celebrate that and educate on the history of it, but still tie it into the message of, come visit.
Well, I will take it upon myself, and thanks, Randy. I will extend your regards to John Dyson. I have not been in touch with him for over a year now, so it's a good reason to get back in touch with him.
Hard to reach these days, but
yeah. Well, he's got his vineyards in Millbrook and Italy and California. He's still doing the agricultural tourism. So yeah, he owns Millbrook Winery in Dutchess County. So. Well, we are running a little bit late, so I want to thank you all for staying with us.
Lafayette, is it too late?
It's not too late. You did give us a bit of an update last time, which are in the minutes, but if there's anything new, we'd love to hear it.
I haven't seen the minutes, so I didn't know.
Okay, yep.
Okay, he arrived at the invitation of James Monroe August 15th, so it's a little less than a year from now, 1824, during a presidential election year where there was bitter sectionalism. Not that we would know about that from our presidential election. He stayed at the vice president's home in Staten Island, so whether we can get our current vice president to greet him is another matter. We'll then have a tall ship sail over on the 16th with a parade on Broadway from, we don't know where, depends on the resiliency building being done, where we can actually disembark. From roughly Castle Garden to City Hall with raising of the French flag, hopefully with the mayor there. Then August 18th, he will be in Westchester. He was there actually on August 20th, but George Latimer, the county executive, said, that's a Tuesday. We don't do Tuesdays. Move it to Sunday. So, okay, we're moving it to Sunday. So he will be all along the Boston Post Road that Sunday. He meaning a Lafayette reenactor. We'll be all along the Boston Post Road, making various stops. We're already getting proclamations declaring that Lafayette Day. He was in the Hudson Valley, traveling there by steamship. That's why I was asking earlier about their cycling because the cycling could parallel. Where for Westchester, he was every place, went to every community. In Hudson Valley, it was like from Troy to New York, but scattered locations where the steamships stop. So we would hope to have steamships and cyclists and whatever. As far as the Finger Lakes region go, he wasn't there until 2025, so we have more time. That was in June. So it'll be just before the World Canal Conference in September and just before the Erie Canal opened, but he did travel on part of the Erie Canal while he was there. So he really got around the state. You just mentioned casually Dorothy and Oz. Well, where is Frank Dunn from? Fayetteville. Where does that name come from? Lafayette. So there are Lafayette streets, avenues, LaGrange after his home in France, all over the state. So this is what we're starting to tie into. Oh, we hope to have a flyover with French jets when we have our parade.
Thank you for the update. That really was comprehensive from when we last met in August.
We meet by
May.
Zoom over the summer.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you, Peter. Okay, I wanted to just make sure you're aware our next meeting is going to be Monday, November 13th, here, 11 a.m. Did I get that right? Yep. And also, thanks for the suggestion from last year, just to show that we did listen. We did, and that's why this meeting was this early this year in September, to avoid United Nations General Assembly, so avoid the traffic on that. So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Can I say one thing to Natasha before she disappears? We will be meeting in Rye on September 22nd, arranged by Barbara Davis at the library.
Okay.
To plan the Lafayette Day in Westchester.
Great, I will call you. Thank you.
Okay.
You got it in right before the second.
I'll second my
David.
adjournment.
Okay, going once, going
Speak
twice.
now, forever hold your
All right,
Thank
the meeting
you.
is now adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you, Peter.
When are you going back to the open, David?
Russ?
Every year? Oh, not this week.
I'm sorry?